The application is not out yet.
Game hasn't loaded, just wait for it to load. It'll take a while.
There you go.
Exploding to the battle, I'm loading the satchel. I'm the explosive Heimerdinger, though he thinks I'm a hassle. But even Donger must be feeling the extent of my brilliance. Cause when the Dean of Demolition speaks, the world's gonna hear it. It's time to boot up the show, the fuse is ready to blow.
Win a little bad, but Tilton lasts forever. Sorry, babe, you're just a one-night stand.
I'm the ready. Leave presents inside you.
Where is also positions of that back that I thought that I could play with him?
Nah, he bottled it. He bottled it.
Not on the street.
Wait.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Vex mid.
I'm taking the floor.
Let's try it out. Captain Teemo, I'm armed and ready. I'm the poisonous pest that you all been dreading.
Sorry. Dark Hearts or Dagger?
I don't really know who I don't want to play against.
Hey.
What I do want to know is that I don't want a Yorick in my game.
Trouble though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. You eat
Piece of shit for breakfast?
Come in here.
No.
No.
Oh, that one. I was like, what does that one do?
You've gone past it.
You eat piece of shit for breakfast? No.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we got a Nunu.
Come in.
Get a Nunu.
Oh my god, man.
Mmm.
You see what you can
Ya baba honey. Ya baba honey.
The
I'm
alarm's
trying to
fine.
make my days
It's not
still
fine,
makes
man.
me
It's just-
do.
It's just because we have to turn on the wind turbine. Oh, okay. We could just
Jump
turn
over.
it. Sleep. Come on, go free.
You can trouble me for a warm glass of shut the hell up.
Let me test the luck today.
And Max. I know that's fine.
Wow.
Unless it's actually something.
Wow, this is so cool.
Okay, no.
That's why
Really a
don't
good
go
block
in.
to get both of them, I guess.
Augustus,
Yeah.
can you make my bed, please?
Player of bliss.
Because Lynn and Luke are looking at a bare bed right now.
Max, go.
And Nivea. Oh, apparently this will be a tough game. Da, 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 ba, da, da, ba, da, 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 ba, da, 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 ba, da, ba, da, da, ba, da, da, ba, ba, da, da. Ba, 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 da, da, ba, ba, da, ba, da, da, ba, da, da, ba, ba. I feel bad that I don't have a Vex skin.
How much those skin cost is crazy. You don't need them.
I do need them. That's where you're mistaken. I now have a target. I gotta get to 700 skins. I'm close to 700.
How much you have is crazy too.
Luke, how many skins do you have now? I'd like to see how many skins Joe has as well. Because Luke's responsible for fucking a lot of our skins. So when he's online, he can fucking give me mystery skins because he likes seeing me get shit ones.
So for the valves.
Ash holds one of the worst skins on the game, baby.
Hmm. So every skin is like £10, around £10.
$3.
If you
Yeah.
have 500, means you cost £5,000 on those skins.
What about the
Something like that.
what about the
You have that money.
Yeah, but you gotta understand, that's over 11 plus years.
What's this?
Imagine you have that money 11 years ago.
I know, right?
No. This. I'm playing this. No.
That's not just like a one injection of a couple of grand. That's £10 every here and there. Our Alistair's called Singed Mutant. Yeah, I'm jealous. I want a Vex skin. She's not really my style. She's like
Jam, look.
a hard farmer, apparently. But I killed Yone level 3. I don't get it. I just remembered then. I've also got to change the size of my overlay because it made me have my HUD like fucking gigantic, and I can't do that. I'm probably just gonna delete this part and just keep the top.
So you just changed your overlay not too long ago.
Yeah, but it makes me have my HUD for the game massive, and I don't play with a big HUD. Will this game ever start? That is a question you want to ask yourself.
Okay.
We have a Tom Kench top, and his thing is the boss. He's against Waffle Maker. Yeah, I like the Shanghai skins. I wanted to try it on Evelyn Jungle as well. Because being stealth, it just adds a level of fuckery to the game. And people don't know how to play against it. It's one of the reasons why me and Joel fucking ban Shaco. We can't handle him coming in, do damage, then run away. It's just so hard to lock down. I think junglers like Eve, Nocturne, any jungler that can get to you from nowhere is so powerful right now. Nocturne, I think, is slept on.
This is gonna be awful.
Yeah, that Top Kent skin's cool. He's even got a chroma.
Awful way. You know
That's cool. Da 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 da. They got Ezreal Ash.
I'm coming. Let's
Oh.
make this easy.
Hey, Nunu.
I'll wait here and you go die. Shadow, carry me.
All that glare on my screen is a bit.
Whatever.
I don't know where she is.
Let's turn these smiles upside down.
Yeah, gotta be in it.
Ugh, sunlight.
I like our auto attacks.
I'll show them the meaning of apathy. Or not.
Ah. Oh, mate. No excuse. I'm not under pressure, nothing.
Death is the true meaning of life. Whoa, that's deep.
No remake. Okay. Mate, me missing these CS is unforgivable.
Man, walking sucks.
But what was he thinking? Can't believe I missed it.
Wish my
Where
hood
you
covered
from?
all of my face.
He must have. He just came in, got rocked, and ran away.
How do you let my
Calm down, Shadow. I'm
Oh, mate.
trying.
Fucking so bad at CSing.
But you can't open your garage in. You just have to park your car outside your house.
Who are you again?
But I can't get in the house with you.
It's just like a CSing in fucking custom.
But I
I'm
can't
still
get
shit
in
at it.
I don't know. I am afraid of it.
Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da,
Want to join me? You like it? Let's join me. Max, look. It's doorway. Yeah, well, join me.
Yep. Glass
Join
is
me.
half empty.
This is riveting gameplay.
But it's better. And the moment she lights actually work. You can actually do stuff to fire on, I think.
Yeah, also radioactive stuff. Look on the sign.
That's not radioactive stuff. It says
Ugh,
fallout
This
shelter.
place is way
So
too
that
many
means the
colors.
basement. Okay, look. See? It's just like a disco.
It's look. But I'm not again.
It's like a disco place. Normal disco balls don't have colour on them. Just join me. You're playing like a brain
Darkness, take me.
Don't play
Seriously,
that.
I'm burning up out here.
You're playing a pay-to-win game. You're playing a pay-to-win game. You know why? All the game passes on the side. Look, Max. Everywhere.
Ugh, more of the same. Well, look at you.
Like, look, see, there's down the basement in your little area.
I don't want to push.
Yeah, I wore this yesterday. What about it?
It's moved on.
I can feel it. Someone
Oh, Olivia's here.
Oh, the thing over there.
Look,
It's look, it's a guy slap.
yeah, no.
Oh.
Ugh, stop copying me, Shadow. Okay.
Hello, controllers.
I'm only in this place because I hate it.
I'm gonna let him farm a bit. Unless Nunu comes to gank.
This place is so getting harrowed. Honestly, you taught yourself just by being
What's happening?
Are you sure you don't join me?
Maybe for
Max,
what?
are you sure you don't want to join me?
Yeah, Dad, go away.
No.
I I'm gonna play Brookhaven again.
If he fucking pokes me,
Okay, time to take it down a level.
You played that yesterday. It's third game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That's nice.
It's not a phase, and I won't grow out of it. One less person to deal with.
I can't do it. God. God, I can't join you.
I didn't do that.
Yes, I just found a game you said no for. What the good, nice.
Ow. Later.
Oh, 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 oh. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Had to please get out of my way.
I was being nice.
You know what, Shadow? Sometimes I almost don't hate you. Don't even think about it. Bring it down a notch. Seriously? That's close enough.
Just look at him. Just look. Look, Gus, this is so funny. You don't get fun like that.
Guess I'll mope over here.
Oh, 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 oh my God, don't go fast.
Honestly, you taunt yourself just by being you.
No, where is it?
This is as far as my eyes can roll.
W. Look at that.
Feel what I feel.
I missed. Crazy.
Well, look at you. Way to die, Norman. I'm so over this place.
Just look. Guys, look. Guys, look. Should I get this open? Should I get Mummy in it or not? Oh no.
Okay, Shadow. Wake me when we hit something. Nope.
Why did it path me down when I was clearly pathing up?
Think sad thoughts. Think sad thoughts. And this one. You never. You're lucky. Being a ghost is so cool.
It's almost like I know how to play her.
Every silver lining has a dark cloud.
There's this little white book. Ah,
Oh god.
white book.
If I can't be happy, no one can. You look better this way. Whatever. Shadow. Shadow, can I get
That's
like
a stitch
5
of AI.
minutes alone?
Damn it.
That's a stitch.
Finally. Part where I get to lead.
I'm trying a different build of her, mate. Even though her normal build is probably absolutely completely fine. But I want that. I want that race car mix.
Harry play this.
I could really use less friends.
Let's Harry play this. Gus, Harry play this.
All that Anivia's bad. I left her in lane for a long time.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I see.
Smashing or listen to the speaker.
I see.
Wait, so do you want to okay, it's really fun.
This is gonna take forever.
Yeah, you don't want to join me.
I want to join you.
Ugh, can we get some rain clouds in here?
Miss my ult. Oof.
You're the worst. doesn't matter.
Look,
I'm going to join it.
this is a boring game.
I'm going to play it.
Hey, buddy.
You don't know what it is.
I'm coming.
It's going to be very hard. So go in your house. Not hard.
I love Vex's kit so much.
Let's go in that room.
What here?
There.
Whatever.
I start. Just get stuff you can buy that. Then
Well,
go to the
that
house.
happened.
Yeah. Use it on the money. Don't-
Oh,
Shadow, carry me. Bring it down a notch.
Got me. Okay. I think Rod might be a good start on her.
I'm joining you.
Oh, it's got to be that, surely.
I get to do it all again. Yay.
As Blue Ezreal.
Do we have to?
On snake. What are you doing? Not in
This is going to be my flat.
This is your
Yeah.
mine.
Oh, right, right.
Mine will be. Bye. Gus. Gus. Gus, can I see this? Gus, can I see this?
Fucking missed.
This is my apartment here, okay?
Okay.
This is my apartment, not yours.
Nightmare.
No, it's not
Nightmare.
a farm, it's called a flat.
It's a flat.
Oh, the power's going all funny.
Door.
The power's gone all funny.
Not you.
Power's gone out.
Punch back on. There we.
Oh, no, you don't try that.
Stop messing around. I know it'll shoot.
No, me? You can't turn off the power. Why have I done it?
Cracked it.
See?
Fucking missed it again.
That's better.
No.
What's that?
Ugh, sunlight.
The power go out again, Gus.
Punch back.
I'll show them the meaning of apathy. Or not.
Power's gonna go out.
Lose the pep. Bring it down a notch. Death is the true meaning of life. Whoa, that's deep.
What's that creepy noise?
I'm gonna stay at 5 on
Oh yeah, it's on my telly. Actually, it's a tornado.
I think this is probably the safest for this
That's my went first. When the talkie was done, I went on back to all my normal film.
Wish my hood covered all of my face.
And I turned my TV off and got the tornado. Can you go outside and see how it looks?
That's what you get for trying.
I think he's gonna be dead.
I'm a beast.
Oh god, it is scary. Look at the
I'm a
tree.
beast.
Don't go out there. Let's come into my apartment. Let's come in.
No, the power's gonna go out in a minute. I know this.
What do I want to get?
Let's come in here.
Horizon, focus on it.
Let's come in. Go outside. Let's come in my apartment. Oh, my work at that bit. That's not my apartment.
Look, I can't even touch it. You can try it.
Let's come in my apartment.
She got me. Got me.
Thanks for liking. Wait, what? The TV remote actually works?
Yeah.
Oh, no, power just went out.
Yeah, I've got to get that. Maybe that's a third item.
Repeating it, guys.
Do you want to come in here with me?
Don't worry, someone's coming in my apartment. Fine.
We don't have torches. I'll have that.
Oh, I can.
I don't know. Is it out? Actually,
Stay in your shelter.
what here?
No, not that shelter. In your house thing.
Wow, that was some
My dad-
quality alone
Where we have
time.
a nice one. And then I'll choose another one, okay? Now, should we live together?
I wonder what this Horizon Focus is actually going to be like.
Hey, can you let me in?
Sure, that's it.
And that's yours.
Yeah, it is.
Take your time, guys.
Should we live together, yeah?
What should we actually?
You have a nice kitchen.
Yeah, but
What's your telly? Let's see. I can lose the mic for your telly.
Calm down,
What's happened to
Shadow.
the-
I'm trying
No.
to sulk.
Oh,
Oh my god.
hello.
Can I use the remote? No.
Look outside, Gus. Let's look outside. It's where we creepy, isn't it?
Yep. Glasses half empty.
No. Do you have 2 bedrooms?
They're playing Roblox, I think, or Minecraft.
We play Roblox.
They're playing Roblox, as Max just pointed out.
I have to be.
Just can I have this bedroom? This double bed.
No, because I'm not in the house. I get the bed.
Oh, but mine don't have a telly.
You can like it. You can only shoot.
This place is way
Oh.
too many colors.
Did that scare you?
Kind of, yeah. I'm kind of used to it though.
First, what's the level thing? Hey! Look. Oh, that's really bad, isn't it, Dad?
Don't always like that.
All lightning and red.
Should we make the food?
What?
Down.
You make some food. What's this bar? I guess I'll just go have a big floor.
Why are you guys? Help me kill my music.
I would have let that Anivia farm up to same level if that Nunu didn't gank me.
That's that we can sleep together in your room. Gus. Gus. We should sleep together.
Then why are the lights off out there? So just
Yeah.
in the arrow.
That's without even having an opponent for the first 9 levels.
Gus, can we
So the
sleep
build was good.
together?
Wait, should we go out?
What?
We go outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the build was good.
Open the door.
I'd like to see how much damage I got through that just at the end.
Let's try the normal exit.
Because that's half the range I've got to hit at 600. Her max range on her level 6 is 1200.
Thank you.
Let's I want out.
So maybe that's an earlier item to get for the extra 10%. But I'm not sure if the 75 ability power and ability haste is worth the 2700. If you look at the stats of that, it's just so much better for Vex. You could go down the mana route and have the more mana, have that actuator. So when you pop it, you do more damage, but all your spells take 100% more mana.
Open the curtain.
That could be a shout.
Open the curtain so we can see how it's like. If we can't go to bed, we can't even go on it.
You won't come on and fucking play fucking jungle with me, you
Go
fuck.
on it, guys.
What power's all power's going out?
Oh, that's scary, wasn't it?
What power's out?
I seem to play a lot better mid lane than I do top.
Guess where are you? Pink.
I don't know why.
Should we go check the fire now?
Where you
I've got so much more experience top.
Oh, the power's back on.
Okay, let's go.
I was thinking about this the other day, Luke. Is my champion pool bigger mid lane?
What's the time? 10.
Should we leave? Max.
What?
Max, should we leave?
Why?
Like, if you look at the level of top lane I've got Wukong, who I know inside out, Garen, but I refuse to play him.
Do you want to see how far?
Obviously, Poppy, Heimerdinger,
Watch.
Quinn,
Quick, quick.
Malphite.
What should we play? This?
I'm trying to think who else. I can play a lot of people top, but not to obviously the level of Wukong. But mid lane, I've got Echo, Fizz, now Vex.
Should I continue
I can play Wukong mid.
playing with the massive shop? Would I get rid of the massive
Diana,
I don't like it. It makes
Veigar. Never understood why I never played Zed. He's an all-in champion. I don't know why I never played him.
Max, should I see if you can? Well, should I see if you can play on actual Roblox? Yeah.
I could play Quinn mid. Veigar, this would be interesting. Apparently, control mages, they counter Vex. So this will be interesting.
Okay, see if I care.
Ba-da-da-ba-ba-da-da. I can play Pantheon top support, top and mid as well.
Just look at that one. The one there.
Yeah, I saw him, mate. I chose to ignore it. I chose to actively ignore that one, mate. I think he's support. Either that or Veigar's support and Kha'Zix's mid lane. Take some more tablets in a minute. I'm still fucked. Lift me up, lifting me up. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Shaco support. That might be new meta, you know. Because he's going to be able to roam so good. I'm surprised I'm not seeing more pikes as well. The best roam I've seen has probably been from Lux. What are you two playing?
I'm trying to make a game for me, Max.
Takes too long. How long have you been making that other game?
But I've just been having other things.
Uh-huh.
Dad, look what am I doing?
I can't see what you're doing, buddy.
No, I got it
for
with
some
me.
reason,
Okay.
I mean, it's published, but it isn't being able to play for some reason.
Probably need Game Pass or something, or Battle Pass, whatever it is.
No.
Open a window. Are you too hot or cold? You too hot or cold? Nanny's in, by the way.
What?
Nanny's downstairs.
Oh, what's this?
I'll do one more, then I'm going to get off for a bit and play something with these two cretins.
Yeah.
Yes, please. They say Black Torch is really good on her, Luke, but I don't like the item. Yes, I do. Okay. No, ignore me. I'm a fucking idiot. I do like that item. I was thinking it was something else.
Of apathy. Or not.
I'm definitely going to keep going Cosmic. I don't know whether... Shall I go that third?
Hey, Vagar, you're at a 10? I need you to take it down to like a 2. Don't even think about it.
All the time you're queuing me, mate. Means you're missing minions. Okay. You didn't go off.
I'm coming.
Who's their jungler? Kha'Zix. He's going to come from the top first.
Just look, I can make the silence settle. And I'll destroy the building and fire.
Yep.
It's flame shard.
So what baffles me, Luke, that more people don't go for the kill on Vex. Apparently.
I can feel it. Someone's happy over there.
He's going to stun me now.
Lose the path. This is as far as my eyes can roll.
And now I'm out of mana.
Are you smiling?
Don't set them on fire.
It's not a phase, and I won't grow out of it.
Just look, this is where my work. Gus. What? This is where my work. Look. A little bit bigger, I don't know where the entrance is. Make it a little bit more lighter. Right here I can see more of it. I actually destroyed my work. That's not my.
About it.
You don't leave this old burning fire. Let's destroy it more fire.
Whatever.
Falling down. Look.
If I can't be happy, no one can.
Mình đưa vào tầm học khỏi. Cao hả? Rồi, mình ra đi.
I'll be back.
Sorry, Papa.
I don't know. Whenever.
I'm not just going
I need mana. I feel like I've missed my opportunity to kill him. I thought he was doing a dragon. He jumped over. He must have.
Okay, time to take it down a level. Well, look at you.
Nice.
That's actually going off, look.
Death is the true meaning of life. Whoa, that's deep. Nope. Okay. Let's turn these smiles upside down.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, now let's die.
Stop copying me, Shadow. This place is so getting harrowed. Good for you.
Downstairs.
Huh?
I go
Yeah,
downstairs.
you can go see Nanny. Fuck it. He's doing work. Jungler.
And get to do it all again? Yay.
I can't believe how tanky that Veigar is. She's dead.
Bring it down a notch.
He does, yeah. And I did not notice that. I don't get how he's so fast as well. He's so fast.
Ugh, look at that tree. So stupid. I'm only in this place because I hate it. I wouldn't do that.
Thank you for shut the bedroom.
It's alright.
You just remember to shut our bedroom door.
I did. Oh,
Well, it was
I must have
open.
gone back in there.
Oh, I think Gus wants a cuddle laying like that.
He does, that's what I
Every
think.
silver lining has a dark cloud.
Cold. The cold? It's quite windy up there.
You got a fucking blanket right next to you.
He's under it.
Oh. Well, there is such things as clothes, buddy.
Don't even think about it. Let's make this easy. I'll wait here and you will die. Seriously? Shadow, carry me. I see Superman. That's better.
I come in clutch there. Oh my god, I come in clutch.
Happened. Oh, where are we going? You know what? It doesn't matter.
I want to clip that if Lynn wakes up at any time. I want to clip that. That was well played. I consider myself well played there.
Ugh, can we get some rain clouds in here?
It's quite even mid.
Ugh. You know what, Shadow? Sometimes I almost
What's up, Kha'Zix?
Well, look at you.
It's cute. It's fucking chunking me.
Ugh, sunlight. Wish my hood covered all of my face.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Double kill.
I could really use less friends.
Oh, we've got a Kale top. I didn't even realise. Here's 121.
Man, walking sucks. okay. I mean, he's whatever, I guess. Whatever. Lose the past. Way to die, Normie. Nope.
I keep thumbs up in the Kazakhs. I did like no damage. How did I do like no damage? How did I do no damage to him, Luke?
That wasn't as cool as I thought it'd be. Guess I'll mope over here.
Ah, fucking missed. Did my W early, and I missed my ult. Why would you go in there, you fucking goon?
Bring it down a notch.
He did barrier, he said. It's amazing how much damage barrier negates. Because that was ridiculous.
Oh, this place is way too many colors.
You get better at landing that.
Calm down, Shadow. I'm trying to sulk.
How did they just get double kill like that? Don't need you here. Fuck off.
I'll show them the meaning of apathy. Or not. glass is half empty.
Control mages are difficult, especially if they can build a bit tanky. I think they were so pissed off with the Kha'Zix.
Daddy. Daddy.
Yeah.
Can I go downstairs?
Huh?
Can I go downstairs?
Yeah.
I bet Peace will sleep.
Yeah, get a hoodie on. Get a hoodie on. I've got 100% win rate with Vex, which is odd.
No, it's fine. It's, I'm telling my legs that they're cold. Plus, I'm fine.
Slippers. Slippers. Go.
Well,
Not there. Yeah, I did a lot of damage. He was just so fucking tanky. Yeah. Thanks for watching, bud. I will see you later on.